We are excited to have the opportunity to speak to the Sustainability Committee tonight. We know through several meetings with Astra and Andrew that the committee is hard at work and has a lot of ideas, a lot of places they want to go, directions they want to go. And so we thought it would be great to share some of our experience at CREAM, kind of where we started, how we took that big list and started to put it into action. And we're excited to hear from everyone in the Q&A after our slides. So I'm going to jump right in. So going green, where to start? We are excited to say that 2021 was our first ever carbon neutral year at CREAM Productions. We launched several key green initiatives, both on set and in our offices. These can be categorized into waste management and carbon emissions. We're going to go into both of those in more detail in a few minutes. We manage these initiatives with a core green team. So Patrick as SVP, we have two wonderful production coordinators who support almost every aspect of this process and of these initiatives. And then myself as a sustainable communications manager, helping to tie everything into reporting and make presentations like this. Some of our things we want to focus on today, we weren't perfect when we got started. We just started and have learned a lot over the last year. And this is a message we're trying to get out to everyone. You won't have it all figured out when you start, so just start. We have formed really wonderful new vendor and new vendor relationships, a new relationship with the offset program that we are contributing to, and that's been a part of this process as well. We're gonna touch on. There are some nice overlaps with equity and diversity efforts. I think Patrick will speak to that a little bit more later on. And as 2021 was a successful carbon neutral year for us, we don't only want to be carbon neutral through carbon offsets, but we actually want to focus on everything we can do to reduce our emissions. And so you'll see that theme coming up throughout this presentation as well. So a couple of reasons to start now. We know that a lot of companies, a lot of directors, a lot of people are thinking about being more green and are sort of at that beginning phase of figuring out what to do. So we really want to encourage everyone to just get started. We all want to improve the footprint of this industry. There's, a lot of opportunity here to make things more sustainable. If you start now, you're still really early. You can definitely still be at the front of the pack of either companies or producers, directors who are focusing and really prioritizing this work. As we'll show you in our next couple of slides, it doesn't cost a lot of money and it doesn't take a lot of time. This is something we really want to emphasize. Sustainable practices are going to be a competitive advantage. They already kind of are, and soon it will become even more important to be able to say that you're sustainable and to prove what you're doing to be more sustainable. As I mentioned as well, there are some really nice overlaps with equity, diversity, and inclusion work, which is also going to be required, to win work going forward. We've received some really nice positive media attention. We just had an article a couple of weeks ago come out in Real Screen magazine on 5 ways to get started. So that's another great resource for where to start. And it's also a hiring advantage. People want to work for companies that are doing good, in addition to all the excellent film and TV work that we're doing. So don't let perfect get in the way of great. Get started and improve as you go. And carbon neutral 2022 is well within everyone's reach if you just get started and maybe take some of our key takeaways with you. So our first category, like I said, we focused on 2. Improving our waste management on set was a huge one. We hired Rethink Resource, who is a sustainable waste management company. They're wonderful. They provided us with 3-stream waste bins, as you can see here, separating with recycling, compost, and waste. They managed all of our waste pickups. We arranged hand-sorted audits where they did a deep dive into all of our waste and where we were wasting more and gave us some really great insights into how we were wasting and provided us with monthly diversion reports. Diverting was our main focus, so moving waste away from landfill and towards recycling and compost. You can see down in the green box there that we actually increased our diversion from 45%, which means 45% going to recycling and compost. And we improved that over the course of a couple of months to 82%. So we were really happy with that improvement. It also helped us sort our waste better. Obviously, you can see images of different items that go into different waste. And this was a really big education piece for everyone on set, as well as ourselves. And it helped us identify some problem areas and kind of zero in on key changes to make. So a switch to compostable food packaging, that was a switch we made at vendor level. Tackling bathroom and paper towel waste. We realized everything was just going in the garbage. So it was so easy to just provide another container in there, and we were able to recycle all of the paper towel, which was previously going to landfill. We purchased reusable coffee mugs and water bottles for everyone on set. Nice Cream logo, nice gift, sort of a win-win. And we also learned some other interesting behavior. We noticed some other interesting behaviors, like the end of the day cleanup. Everything was getting put in one bag as someone was cleaning up at the end of the day, walking around set. And so that was contributing to a lot of our contamination, where things were all going into the wrong bin. So that helped us sort of, address things in a focused way. Like I said, we increased our diversion 45% to 82%. We improved our sorting, meaning we put the right item in the right bins. We improved that by 23%. And we just continued to educate and try to change behaviors. And we've received a lot of really great support from the team from these efforts. As you can see, it was a mix of changing things at the vendor level and changing things, kind of asking our crew and cast and staff to change things on set. That's something we can talk about a little bit more later, but we can't ask them to do a million extra things in an already busy day. And so whatever we could change at vendor level, we did. Our second category was carbon measurement and offsetting. So we're going to start with measuring here. We measured all of our carbon emissions for all 2021 productions. We did that through Albert, which is an excellent resource we were introduced to through Ontario Green Screen. Albert, as you can see here, the categories are really thorough. They really provide you with a great roadmap to all the different activities that you can measure, how to measure them, what to look out for. And so this really was a great starting point, starting guide for us. All of the information was compiled by the production coordinators, and this was really interesting. Almost everything that you need to enter into Albert, you already track as a production company: travel, hotels, vehicle rentals, generators, all of these things. It wasn't like we had to go track down very much new information. And again, we weren't perfect at first, but now we've really become more systematic with how we do this tracking, who does it, how early on in the production we start. And so it's become so much easier. After the first, second production, it's now become sort of second nature to the team, which is awesome. We tracked 15 shows, including some of our pitch shows and the Cream office in Toronto. We had, for the year, a total of 313 tons of carbon emissions, and that was a total offset of $7,825. So that moves us into carbon offsetting. So just in case anyone is not familiar, an offset is a credit or a donation to an environmental initiative that works to avoid, reduce, or remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere, so renewable energy and forest protection. So when we gave that $7,825, we contributed it to the Great Bear Forest Carbon Project, which is in British Columbia. I'll talk more about that in a second. But with all of this offsetting data, we could identify the activities with the highest emissions. So that ended up being vehicles driving to set and the fuel used for our generators. And that obviously helps us zero in on where we want to reduce more this year. Like I said, reduction is our focus. So we don't only want to offset these emissions, but now we're going that extra level to figure out how we can, rent electric vehicles, where we can find grid tie-ins, and how we can start to address our fuel consumption. And for anything we can't reduce, we purchase the carbon offset. So you can see here this lovely certificate from Great Bear Forest. This was one of the certificates for a couple of our productions, but overall we've contributed that total 313 tons. And Great Bear Rainforest Carbon Project is an Indigenous-led carbon offset program in the Great Bear Rainforest in BC that also invests in First Nations communities in the area. And we really felt good about supporting this project. They're wonderful. They historically and today, First Nations are stewards of the environment, and learning better ecosystem management practices from them is something that we're, really happy to support. So it's been overall lovely to get to know the project and to form this relationship with them. So we have one case study here. This is a production that we did in February and March of last year. So we're going to take you through some of the numbers of an entire production and what that looked like. So it was a 53-day shoot with 40 to 60 crew at any given point. Again, we did the sustainable waste management with Rethink Resource, and we entered all of our data into Albert. In total, the production footprint was 125 tons of carbon emissions. And you can see here, this graph is from Albert. So the legend is probably a little bit small for everyone, but the yellow is travel and transport. So that was, again, all of our fuel use. The purple is filming spaces, and the little sliver of dark blue at the top is non-filming spaces. So that includes our editing suites and any post-production work. All of those hours were logged and are part of the footprint. So in total, for the 125 tons of carbon generated, our offset was $3,125. Again, that went to Great Bear Rainforest. The switch to Rethink Resource was just over $13,500 more than regular waste. And that included 2 waste audits, again, where they do that piece by piece audit and tell us, how we're doing. Switching to compostable food packaging, $30 a day more than regular packaging. The reusable water bottles for crew were just over $1,000. Communications manager, $2,000. And these are our hours. So over the course of the entire production, and I'd say also before it, because a lot of this planning started earlier than February 2021. You can see, Patrick put in 24 hours, our production coordinators 15, and myself 30. So in total, this is what it cost to make the Haunted Museum a fully sort of sustainable, carbon neutral production. And when you break it down, it's not a huge portion of the overall budget. So we're trying to show here that you can make a pretty good case study, business case study for doing this. And happy to come back to this slide if there are any questions. So some of our key takeaways: going green is soon going to be required. If you get started now, you can still be leading the way, which again is going to be a real competitive advantage. Some of the issues that we hear people talk about are resourcing. So who's going to do this? Do we need to hire someone? We've been able to, Patrick was able to form the team before even I joined, just with people who were enthusiastic about, making the set more green. So find the people that care about the Apera green efforts, and they're going to step up. A lot of the data entry was a natural extension of the coordinator's tasks. Like we said, most of this information is already being tracked and just had to be compiled and kind of organized a little bit differently. For the budget, relative to production budgets, our green efforts were not that expensive. Think of how much it cost to pivot when COVID happened, and we were all able to do that. And with experience, we now work these green line items into our pitches and budget proposals. And Patrick can talk to this a little bit more, but so far that hasn't really been an issue for anybody. So it's interesting to see how well received this is. As I said, for behavior change, it's easier to change vendors and overhaul set protocols. It's just a part of the initial service conversations that we're having with vendors, but we're still educating the staff, crew, everyone in manageable steps and with progress reports. So they're not totally off the hook, but we try to do as much as we can with our vendor choices so that it's less change for everybody on set. And then being adaptable is key. We're an industry of creative people and we're experts at making things happen. So this is well within reach for everybody. It hasn't been a lot of extra work and it's been really rewarding overall. So a couple of first steps here: build your team, find the enthusiastic people, engage a senior person who can assist with the budget and resource decisions. Just start with one production in Albert, do as much as you can, and it will get easier. You'll learn a lot. The more we worked in Albert, the more we realized a lot of stuff that we figured out on our own was actually answered just like one step later in Albert. So there's a lot of information there to learn from. And then the last thing is keep a running list of all your ideas. It can feel really overwhelming where to start. There's a million different directions to go in. Start with what is easy, what is sort of an immediate low-hanging fruit kind of change, and then tackle the big stuff later. We're tackling the bigger stuff now in 2022 that we couldn't wrap our heads around in 2021, and that we did a lot of learning in our first year. And so it's easier now. We've made some really helpful connections and it's easier to tackle the bigger stuff now. So these are takeaways, first steps. I think this presentation will be made available. So if you want to use this as a checklist, it will be here for you. This is our last slide and I'm going to hand over the floor to Patrick. I know I just talked a lot, but if there's anything you want to add, Patrick, before the Q&A, please jump in.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Angelica. That was awesome. It's the main thing I'll add, and the main thing I just keep saying, it's easy, it's not expensive, it's an extension of what we already do every day, producing a show. Because we are, Angelica said it, we're experts at making things happen. We pivoted at COVID without really blinking. And if you decide to pivot to green initiatives, sustainability initiatives, we can do it. We pull off all kinds of crazy stuff producing a TV show. This isn't crazy, and it's much easier than some of the other things that we pull off making a show. And that's all I really need to add to it. It's we just decided we wanted to do it. We initiated it. We learned along the way. We're getting better at it. And like Angelica said, we're going to start tackling the big stuff. We're going to start really looking at reducing and start comparing year to year or show to show, types of show to see how we maybe we do divert all of our waste. Maybe we get to 100%, but how do we have less to even divert? How much stays in is, you know, in Angelica's profession as circular economy. So stuff's not even going down any of those 3 streams. So that's the stuff we're starting to look at now. And that's about it.